This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back. This is the Roger Stone Show here at 77 WABC Radio. Folks, if you haven't gone to the App Store and downloaded the 77 WABC Radio app for your phone, let me urge you to do that, because you can hear all of our great programming after the fact if work or family activities prevent you from listening to your favorite shows. You can always go back and listen. Of course, you can also hear us at WABCradio.com worldwide. I mean, pretty much any place you can see the sky, you can listen to the great programming at 77 WABC Radio. And if you're fortunate enough to be in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area where I grew up, you can find us at 770 on the AM dial. Can't even begin to tell you how privileged I am to be in the 77 WABC radio family, because, well, I listened to Cousin Brucey and Dan Ingram on 77 WABC when I was in high school at John Jay High School in Katona, New York. I remember tooling around in my 1965 yellow Volkswagen convertible Bug that I paid a whole $550 for. Had 22,000 miles on it when I bought it. God, I love that car. If I owned it today, it would be worth a couple $100,000. Joining me now is Mike Crispi. Mike Crispi is the host of Mike Crispi Unafraid, also a program called Last Call, both of them at rumble.com. But he is also a Trump delegate to the recent Republican National Convention from New Jersey, a leader in the America First movement in New Jersey, and he is also on the board of the Italian American Civil Rights League. Mike, you made the press this past week. I read this story multiple places. You had some pretty stout criticism for vice presidential candidate Tim Walz.
Yeah, Roger, first of all, it's an honor to be with you, and it's an honor to be on WABC. So Tim Walz, I mean, it's the worst of the worst for many reasons. The guy lies about everything, not just his stolen valor. He was lying about the types of tacos that he eats with Kamala Harris, calling it white guy tacos. The guy's a mess. But what we called out at the Italian American Civil Rights League was the fundamental, essentially, disqualifier for Tim Walz, I think, for so many Americans in this country, millions of Americans, who look at a guy like Tim Walz, they look at a candidate like Kamala Harris, and they say, do you want to erase America's history? Particularly, do you want to erase the history of the proudest symbol of Italian Americans in this country, and that's Christopher Columbus? You know, Roger, it's amazing to me how, all the leftists like to pander to every single group and every single interest, and they do all these, think tanks and studies and meetings and roundtables, except for Italian Americans. So it's a great source of pride in our community, our Christopher Columbus statues. And the Democrats, because the woke, psycho leftists complain, will jump all over the opportunity to not only rip down Columbus statues, but then pioneer and champion renaming Columbus Day, a great source of pride for millions of Italian Americans, many of which probably listen to this station, but renaming it Indigenous Peoples Day. Tim Walz has been at the forefront of that for years, dating back to 2017. I saw his most recent comments on it. So he allowed the statues to come down. He wanted to change, the name of a holiday that's so near and dear to so many of us. I think is so disqualifying, Roger. He is so bad on so many levels.
In this specific case, what he did was there was a threat by terrorists, by thugs, to desecrate and then tear down the statue of Christopher Columbus that is outside the Minnesota state capitol. The governor ordered that the statue should not be defended, and then when it was destroyed, he refused to replace it, which to me is, as you say, Mike, an effort to disrespect our traditions, to reject our values, and to rewrite our history. It is amazing, and it is very typical of the entire progressive agenda that this fellow Walz represents. I must tell you, I actually never heard of him. I have a really good friend who's a big Democrat, very plugged into Democrat circles. And when everybody else was telling me that the vice presidential nominee would be Josh Shapiro, he insisted, no, in the end, it would not be Shapiro. Even though the idea, of course, was that Josh Shapiro, as the governor of Pennsylvania, would tip that battleground state, which is crucial to Donald Trump's election, to the Democrats. And I said, okay, well, then surely it will be Mark Kelly of Arizona. My Democrat friend said, no, it won't be him either. His partnership with a Chinese communist company that makes the surveillance balloons, kind of like the one that Joe Biden let float all the way across America, including over our most secure military base, which is where I believe our missile launchers are in Montana, before finally shooting it down over the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, after it had presumably already downloaded all of its surveillance data by computer to Beijing. And my Democrat friend turned out to be right about that. He said the nominee will be Walz. I had never heard of Walz. The first time I tried to look him up, I misspelled his name on the. It was actually on Google. I had never heard of this guy, but he seems to be the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, one of the great American imports of the 20th century were Italian-American immigrants. Our ancestors, because Stone, as you know, is a name plucked out of thin air by some clerk on Ellis Island. My grandfather's name was Corbo when he came here, Corbo. It's a bastardization of Corvo, the town in Sicily that my people are from. Italians who are now Italian-American, fled here to escape failing economies and hunger. Our ancestors fled to escape discrimination. No matter the reason, each of our families traveled to America seeking the American dream. And I hate to say it, but Tim Walz seems to want to erase and disrespect all of that.
100%. I mean, Tim Walz, it came out that he had been essentially cutting a deal with the devil. He cut a deal with pro-Hitler radical Islamic terrorists in Minnesota to give him a voting block so he can get up and get elected. This guy doesn't represent American values. This guy doesn't represent what the Democrats like to say he is. And when it comes to Italian-American immigrants, I mean, the difference with Italian-American immigrants and the people that are coming in the country now, because the Democrats love to say that line, is that Italian-Americans worked hard to build this country. We came in, we worked hard, we faced discrimination. The biggest mass lynching in this nation's history, Roger, you know this, it was Italian-American immigrants in the state of Louisiana. So we have been through a lot as a group, but the reason that we don't pander and go to the leftist cause and go with the Democrats is because we pick ourselves up by our bootstraps. We work hard, we build something, we build our communities, and we make an impact. And everybody who wants something for themselves, wants to build something for themselves, obviously, at the end of the day, aligns with the Republican Party. So that's what the Italian-American cause has been, and Tim Walz is so bad for it. And I got to tell you, Roger, I was in East Harlem this past weekend at the Giglio feast. It was an amazing, right outside of Rayo's there, 114th Street in that vicinity. And it was amazing the amount of people who came up to me and our tent for the Italian American Civil Rights League and said, thank you. Finally, there's a group that is sticking up for these causes because we have been ignored, and they've come at our statues, they come at our holiday, and nobody seems to want to talk about us. Why don't they want to help us? So, it was a great reception in East Harlem this past weekend. It's a very badly needed cause.
Last weekend, we had the actor, singer, producer, director, filmmaker, Robert Davi here on the Roger Stone Show. And he actually went through Christopher Columbus's history. He was not a slave owner. He was he was a kind man. He was a Christian. They have painted this picture of him as some kind of ogre because it fits their political agenda. And look, folks, there's still a statue of Christopher Columbus in New York City, and the city council there continues to make noises about removing it. And this is a strong reason why I urge you to go to visit the Italian American Civil Rights League. That website address is iacrl.org, iacrl.org. Make your voice heard if these attempts to bury our heritage continue, which, of course, very sadly they will. Mike, let's shift to politics for a minute. You went to the convention as a delegate, which had to be a great experience. The Republican National Convention.
Well, the Republican National Convention was amazing. The momentum was off the charts. And ever since the convention, President Trump, look at it. He's hitting stride. I think that the Democrats coming out of the convention, their strategy was to whip up fake poll numbers, push those poll numbers out, and create a narrative, a fake narrative, that Kamala Harris is in some way surging. I got a question, Roger. Name me one person who was going to not vote for Biden, but is going to vote for Harris, who is not going to vote for Trump because Harris got in the race. It's such a silly fallacy. So, coming out of the convention, which was an amazing experience, got to hear so many of the great current, former, and future leaders in the MAGA movement take the stage, got to interact with them. Momentum is very high right now, and there's this fake hysteria that's being ginned up by the leftists that, President Trump's campaign right now is in trouble because the polls are narrowing. Which polls? The fake polls that sample a predominantly disproportionate amount of Democrats, or the fake news headlines that we've always known have been fraudulent over the last number of years. They've been doing fake news for 9 years on President Trump, and now all of a sudden, people need to pay credence to those fake polls. So I got to tell you, the convention was amazing. I hope to be one day, Roger, to go to as many conventions as you. But it was an amazing experience, and I think the momentum in President Trump's campaign has been palpable and real. And I think people don't need to listen to this fake news nonsense because you didn't listen to it for 9 years. There's no reason to start listening to it now.
Yeah, I saw the Republican pollster Frank Luntz in an interview last night saying that Kamala Harris is pulling out a group of new voters who otherwise would not have voted. They wouldn't have voted for Trump or Biden, but they're not going to vote for her, and that the Republican Party is on an inexorable path to defeat. You know what? That's about as believable as that rug that he wears. There is no evidence whatsoever in any of the polling that I have studied. And these are not Republican polls, folks. These are polls taken by credible third-party surveyors of public research. I think Mike Crispi just nailed it. There are no voters, virtually no voters, who were going to vote for Biden or weren't going to vote for Biden, who are now going to vote for Kamala Harris. She has an enormous, obvious problem. It's now been weeks since she became the putative nominee, since they announced that she had enough delegate votes in their upcoming convention, delegates that nobody voted for, because her name was never on the ballot in any primary or caucus. This has been a completely non-democratic process. in terms of her selection. She was anointed, clearly, as we now learn, after Nancy Pelosi bludgeoned Joe Biden out of the race. Joe Biden is many things, but he is a proud man. He's a man with a substantial ego, and he is he's clearly not a quitter. He's come back to contend for the presidency even when he's in ill health, which I think is kind of obvious. He tried several times to run for president. He was bitterly disappointed in 2016 because he thought, well, he had been 8 years as vice president under Barack Obama. It was most certainly his turn. But Obama told him, no, Joe, you're going to have to wait. It's not your turn. You're not running. Hillary Clinton is going to be anointed. And then an excellent video I saw put up actually by Robert Kennedy's running mate, Nicole Shanahan, outlined very, very dramatically how they bludgeoned Joe out of the race. And then, as she shows in her mini documentary, they had to cheat to nominate Hillary. Bernie Sanders, because of his populist, anti-war, and anti-free trade, or I should say fair trade issues, caught fire. He wasn't even a Democrat, by the way, until he was an independent, technically. He was elected as a socialist, as mayor, I believe it is, of Burlington. But he wasn't even a Democrat. He was an independent who caucused with the Democrats, yet he was on a trajectory to beat Hillary Clinton. Yeah. And they had to do a very fancy financial transaction in which Hillary Clinton used funds to bail out the Democrat National Committee, which had run, I think it was $26 million into debt under Barack Obama, and in return, she got the rules jiggered in such a way that poor Bernie lost his shot at the nomination. And here's the irony, Mike, they didn't do it to Bernie Sanders once, they did it to Bernie Sanders twice. So this is, I think you put it right, what we're watching is a psyop. This is the use of the mainstream media to use these polls, which are jiggered, which are manipulated, to use AI photos that show enormous turnout for her public events. President Trump was excoriated when he said that the other day. Based on all the research that I can find, I believe he's absolutely correct. And then on top of all that, as we discussed here previously, much of the money that is flowing into her coffers from small and medium-sized donors through the payment processing application ActBlue.com, those contributions don't appear to be real. There are at least 60,000 that have been identified as potentially fraudulent. 6 attorney generals are now on this. The Fair Election Fund continues to collect data, but there are people who are reflected in the Federal Election Commission reports as having given to the Kamala Harris's campaign. But when you contact them, they have no memory of making these serial contributions. They have no record of giving to Democrats in the 2022 cycle. So we're being subjected to an overall psyop trying to convince us that Kamala Harris is popular, Kamala Harris is more popular than Joe Biden, or that Kamala Harris and her running mate are surging, that it's Donald Trump who's afraid to debate. Let me tell you, I've known Donald Trump for 45 years. He is afraid of nothing. And I guess, I haven't seen the latest, Mike, but it appears to me, I guess we are going to have 2 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to that because President Trump said it in his press conference yesterday in Bedminster. I was there, and Trump said, listen, they threw all these rules at me in the CNN debate, Everyone's saying, oh, I'm afraid to debate, but he showed up. The deck was stacked. They had the fake news CNN there moderating it. They were calling all the shots, making all the rules. Trump went in and demolished Biden, so much so that Biden had to retire from politics. So that's not a win. I don't know what is. Now, he talks about ABC. ABC perhaps being the only outlet that is more unfair than CNN. But Trump did not seem deterred, didn't seem frazzled in the slightest, when it came to going on ABC. He's agreed to the debate, and I think that he knows no matter what is said, no matter how the moderators try to stack the deck, no matter what happens when they try to interject and cut him off, that he is going to be able to take it to the American people directly. The fake polls that people are seeing, it's going to be the perfect opportunity for President Trump to show the public that those polls are totally phony when he wipes the floor with her, saying, hey, Kamala, you say inflation's down, but for Americans, the cost of bacon and the cost of groceries are up 25, 30%. Hey, Kamala, you say that you stand with our ally Israel, but why do you sympathize every chance you get to Hamas radicals? Hey, Kamala, you say that you're not the border czar, but then you also said that we need to shut down every single border detention facility. She said that. That was her policy when she was running for president back in the 2020 primary. So what do you say for that? Once President Trump gets on that stage, no matter who is moderating, it's going to be abundantly clear. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a slam dunk. And then J.D. Vance, really, I think, nobody is going to take it to somebody more than J.D. Vance is going to take it to Tim Walz. J.D. Vance is extremely intelligent. He's a man who embodies the American dream. He made something out of himself from nothing. And Tim Walz is just an absolute phony. J.D. Vance understands and has his finger on the pulse of the everyday working men and women who have been plagued by these Washington, D.C. policies in middle America. Tim Walz is a phony, from his stolen valor to faking being a head coach of his high school football team to, faking so many different things. Tim Walz is the worst of the worst. So I think J.D. Vance is also going to take it to Tim Walz in a pretty amazing, smooth way. And obviously when J.D. Vance is on the stage, he's much younger, he's much more articulate, he's much better looking. So I think that's also going to bode well. So once these debates start, Roger, that the election is going to become more exciting because they won't be able to lie about polling and fake narratives. So can't wait for those debates.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Mike Crispi of the Italian American Civil Rights League, also the host of Mike Crispi Unafraid at Rumble, and we'll be right back.
Impact confirmed. The Slayer has been activated.
Demonic threat level increasing.
Hold the line!
All the power of hell cowering before one man.
id Software presents Doom: The Dark Ages. Available May 15th on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC. Pre-order now.
Rated M for mature.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code listen50. T's and C's apply.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org. Number 3030.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Welcome back, folks. This is the Roger Stone Show here at 77 WABC, the most powerful, influential AM radio in the United States. I'm proud to be here every Sunday from 3 to 6. And, of course, we talk politics, news, history, style, and one of my big favorites, food. We're talking to Mike Crispi. He was a Trump delegate to the recent Republican National Convention. He is the host of Mike Crispi Unafraid, also his late night show, Last Call, both of them at rumble.com. I urge you to check those out. He is, of course, a proud son of the Garden State, and he rejoins us now. Mike, New Jersey, used to be a swing state. Went for Gerald Ford over Jimmy Carter in 1976. Went for Ronald Reagan in 1980 and 1984. And that was kind of the end of the Republican winning streak at the presidential level. The New Jersey Republican Party has fallen on hard times in terms of both registration, and they seem to be divided between those who want to be more like Democrats and those who actually adhere to the America First principles of Donald Trump. But I've seen polling myself that shows that New Jersey is conceivably within reach for Donald Trump. How does it feel to you, and what are you seeing and hearing?
Well, I'll say this, Roger. When President Trump came to Wildwood, New Jersey, and I took the stage at the rally, I proclaimed that President Trump was about to take the lead in New Jersey. That was because back in May, there was polling data that came out that had him down by 5 points. Now, again, that was before he did the Wildwood rally. That was before people continued to learn what a phony fake that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was. That was obviously before the inevitable, and that was the great swap that we saw. And since then, you've pointed it out. There's been two polls that have President Trump up both 3 and 2 points respectively. So he's certainly gaining momentum. And I believe when you look at the ground in this state, people notice the trends. They notice the trends. And in South Jersey, there are an abundance of conservatives, right? It's super red. It's super Republican. And I think that is going to lead to a mass turnout. Then when you look at Central Jersey and North Jersey, you have a suburban demographic. You have a swing voter demographic. And those swing voters, obviously, right now, are looking at the economic status of what's going on in this country. And they're saying, I'm going to dump Bidenomics. I'm going to go for Trumponomics. It's common sense, as Trump said at that rally. So I believe that's going to happen. And then in the more urban areas, Patterson, Hudson County, Trenton, you have a situation where Trump is peeling off 5, 10, 15% of the inner city urban vote. And I think that's not to be dismissed or overlooked, because when he does that, he's pulling in, a lot of new votes that Republicans haven't had in a very long time. So I believe that when you combine those three factors, New Jersey is in a position to make the flip. First time since 1988, New Jersey would go red. You take that, and on top of that, compounding what we unveiled with Tim Walz being an Italian-American hater, there's a lot of proud Italian-American working-class folks in New Jersey, Roger, and I think, from the work that the IACRL has done, 99.9% of those are going to vote for Trump. So I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, you mentioned the entire question of J.D. Vance. There's been a major mainstream media attempt to try to decapitate him before the American people can get to know him. And it's elitism is what it is. It's snobbery. They look down on him, even though he has a well-earned Ivy League education. He's a Yale graduate, for example, but he comes from humble origins. He started with absolutely nothing, an extraordinarily hard scrabble background. This guy has worked for everything he has, and he has succeeded in business. He has succeeded as an entrepreneur. He has succeeded as an author. He has succeeded as a documentary filmmaker, and he proudly served his country in the U.S. Marine Corps. He also has cojones. This is a guy who, like Donald Trump, I don't think he fears anything. I think it was Frank Sinatra said, never fear anything or anybody. I think that J.D. Vance's time is going to come. There's going to be a defining moment, a flashpoint in this campaign that in which he's going to stand out. I think you have hit this right on the head.
Yes, J.D. Vance, he's, I think, the sleeper right now. You know, we've seen him do rallies, we've seen him do events, but I think once he gets up on that stage against Tim Walz, I think people are going to see the contrast. Everyone always says, these candidates are too old. These candidates are too old. You know, that's something that you always hear. Obviously, President Trump has the vigor and the energy of somebody 20 years younger than him. But J.D. Vance legitimately is young. I mean, the guy just turned 40 years old about 2 weeks ago. And I think he is going to be the rising, shining star. I think he's going to articulate the pain that people in middle America are going through. And I think most importantly, he's the guy who could prosecute that case against Tim Walz better than anybody. It's a stark contrast, and I believe that he is going to manhandle Tim Walz in that debate, and that will put to rest anybody talking about the selection. I thought it was a great selection, and Trump, went with his instincts, and I believe it was the right instinct, and the public is going to know that as soon as they get on the stage.
Yeah, I agree. He's the same age. J.D. Vance is the same age as Senator Richard Nixon was when he joined the Eisenhower ticket. All right, I'm afraid we're out of time. I want to thank my friend Mike Crispi. You can check him out at Mike Crispi Unafraid at rumble.com. Also, Last Call at rumble.com. He has 2 great shows. Mike, thanks for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Roger. Always an honor. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.